Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Rolka. Welcome to this week's live event number 660. 60. That's a lot. Yeah. Why am I at a loss for words? You'd think this was like the first live event I've done. This is not my first rodeo, folks. Actually, if I were riding... No, I've ridden horses, and I've ridden the mechanical bull in there's like a bar restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee. I have in fact ridden the bull in Nashville, Tennessee, which, is really, really fun. I would highly recommend it if you don't have any back problems or anything like that. They kind of like start you off slow, and I thought like the first time I did it, because you get like you buy like $5 and it gives you like 3 rides or something. And the first ride was really casual, and I was like, okay, this is fine. And the second time it was just like ping, and I went flying off the thing, which was really fun. Good afternoon, JC's Radiant Ray. Hello, Ronaldo. Hello, Giuseppe. Giuseppe, I noticed that you saw the moonboard video. I didn't know where else to release that, and so I tried to set it up so it wouldn't like send out an email to everybody on the channel, because I didn't want to like be that guy that's like, oh, look what else I do. But it was something that pronunciation drills. Yeah, I think you should check out the lyrics playlist or the lyrical exercises. There's a playlist on the channel. Lyrical phrases, I think is what it's called. Lyrical phrases. And it does a few of those things. Also, I believe it's live event 17 begins with a exercise. And that can be very, very good for articulators. And then the second half of that exercise goes through some really great, more sustained, partially phonating sounds that are consonant in nature. Hello, Susan from SoCal. Hello from NorCal, yo. We are up here in the Bay Area enjoying. It's going to be hot this weekend. I think it's going to be hot in LA too, so watch yourself down there. Robret, good afternoon. Grand afternoon. I haven't seen you pop up in a while. I'm watching Californication, and I'm wondering if LA is portrayed correctly in the series. By the way, I love Hank Moody. Well... maybe Susan, perhaps you could chime in on that at Ronaldo. The thing is, I've been to LA many times, and I have always really enjoyed myself, whether it's been sort of in the centralized Los Angeles or Silver Lake or Echo Park. I spent some time in Manhattan Beach, which is really, really lovely. And I've always had a super, super fun time down there, but I've never seen Californication. So I don't know how they compare. I've not seen that show. So the last thing, here's a blast from the past for you. The last thing that I watched on regular television that you just kind of like have your TV and it plays in your room and does whatever. The last thing I watched was the live trial of O.J. Simpson. So that'll tell you when I got rid of my television. Skylar, it sounds amazing. Thank you. I'll be sure to check them out. Awesome. Crack the Code Core. Hi from Bogota. That is so cool. And what a cool user ID. Crack the Code Core. Welcome. Welcome. You're the first person who has identified themselves as being from Bogota. And I'm immediately reminded of the Rush song. I don't know if you are familiar with it or not. Our first stop is in Bogota. You see... what is the name of that song now? I can't remember the name of the song. I think that's off of Moving Pictures. It's an older Rush tune. I should do my station identification. My name is Jeff. Welcome. If you haven't subscribed, or if you have, thank you. And if you haven't yet, I hope that you'll consider doing so now. If you want a step-by-step method, head over to jeffrolka.com. I've also got a new way to support the YouTube channel, which is I've become an Amazon affiliate. Now, do not concern yourself with the notion of all of a sudden ads popping up all over the place. That is not going to happen. That is not how I roll. However, if you don't want to buy MP3s or the guidebook and making donations out of the ordinary for you, or you don't want to do that either, You can now go to my website, jeffrolka.com, and either on the Connect page, I'm going to put a support page up soon too, or on the homepage, there is a link to amazon.com. And if you click on the link, your shopping experience will be exactly the same as always, but a small percentage of your purchase will go back to me to help support the channel. So thank you. If you're shopping on Amazon, it is a what do they say? Victimless crime. It is a harm-free way. It won't change anything about what you purchase or the cost of it. It just means that a small percentage comes back to the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. Gerald Ryan, what will I do if I'm singing on a live event and my microphone sounds very low? It's hard for me to sing, especially when I have to reach high note because, that is like a time-honored issue to have. One, if you have monitors, you can't reliably know that it's too low in the house. So if you have a sound engineer, hopefully, and this is like the best of the worst case scenarios, right? Hopefully your monitors are low because he's focused on the house mix. Not an awesome thing, but, better than everything sounding poor. Now, one of the things that you can do is try to make eye contact with your engineer, or just say it on the mic, like more vocals in the monitors, please. Ask in between songs. Another fairly reliable way to do it is with hand signs. So something like can sometimes work too. But that assumes that you have an engineer and that they're paying attention to you. Hiya from Kansas. Elisa, welcome. I do not recall seeing you pop up before during a live event. Thank you for joining us from the great state of Kansas. I've driven through Kansas on a couple occasions on my way to and from shows in the Midwest, coming from Colorado and such. I-80 is rather straight through Kansas, as I recall. Susan, not seen it either, but SoCal is super chill. Love LA, totally. Love LA is great. LA is very, very cool. So it seems like it's a fairly quiet live event thus far. It has a tendency to pick up the pace later on. I am inclined to talk briefly about a question that came in via the channel, which was about the blues scale and in the context of blues progressions. And Susan. Oh, wait, I just read that one. Fred, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Great, from Philly, great to be here. Welcome, Fred. Polite Pancake. Welcome, Polite Pancake. I don't recognize your user ID either, but welcome. Just Juan Reader from Mexico City. Welcome. Kevin O'Brien, welcome. David Walsh. When monitoring your own singing, do you listen to what you are singing or pay attention to how it feels in your instrument? Very good question. In part, it depends on the environment. If I'm practicing at home, then I'm listening, but I'm feeling it out too. I'm kind of noticing what my body feels like, how my engagement feels like, what's my support and expansion feeling like. I'm kind of casting my awareness around the different aspects of my physical being, my body, to try to notice what feels right, what feels wrong, where do I feel stiff? Am I stiff? If I'm moving around, do I notice when I lock up? The only time that I really want to depend entirely on feeling in a performance environment is if it's just so loud that I feel like I can't hear myself in the monitors. And that's a far from ideal scenario. I mean, we don't really want to be in that situation at all if we can help it. But it is unfortunately far too frequently the reality. And so that's where relying on the physical sensations of our singing can be incredibly helpful in getting us through the gig. Just one reader. I am a teacher and I spend my day pretty much yelling at kids. Any vocal tips to preserve my voice? Gosh. Well, I mean, the first thing is, of course, to stop yelling if you can. It's tough being, I assume you mean a classroom teacher, so you've got like a room of anywhere from 20 to 35 students at any one time, and that's really tough. Certainly trying to stay engaged, keep your abdominal muscles engaged, keep them lifting towards your sternum. that can be a very tiresome thing to focus on hour after hour as you go through your day. But that will help take some of the weight off of your voice. Staying well hydrated would be very, very good too, though I know that can create other issues in terms of leaving the classroom. If you don't have someone that can stay there, obviously, usually you can't leave students unattended. I don't know what age group you're dealing with, and that does vary from age group to age group. Yeah, I mean, one of the big things when I was a classroom teacher was I just absolutely refused to raise my voice. And so I, over the time, developed, shall we say, a system of consequences and rewards, mostly consequences. If they took too long to recognize me when I was standing in front of them and beginning to address the class and beginning to teach. I think it's reasonable to expect that one can address their students in a reasonable voice. I don't personally like to be yelled at. I don't know that many people do like to be yelled at. I don't know why that's somehow become an acceptable way of addressing classroom over the years, though I've seen people do it all the time and been subjected to it myself. So I just abjectly refused to do it. That often meant that I might have to spend more time with the class if I was deducting the minutes I stood there from recesses or other things. But you have to figure that out, too, in conjunction with your administration and what kind of consequences there'll be if you feel like your teaching time is being compromised by having to wait for them to quiet down for you. Obviously, all of that has to be done in consideration of admin and all that kind of stuff, because you don't want to step outside those boundaries. That creates problems incredibly quickly. Toma, hello. I don't know what that emoticon is. It's like a dancer. That's cool. Gerald Ryan, what is the right level of volume and echo for the microphone to be set in? Well, this depends. This depends a lot. One thing about your microphone volume is I like to set it so your front of house engineer, and if that's you, then you need to gauge your audience and the environment you're in and the function that you play. If you are what we might call music as furniture, meaning you're a pleasant sound that is occurring in the background while people have conversations and watch television, well, then you probably want to be low enough that they don't have to shout over you. If you are the featured act, then you almost certainly have a sound engineer or someone, and they will let you know, if you're too soft or too loud. Even in cafe gigs, they'll often tell you, hey, turn it up, turn it down, if you're the featured performer, if it's a listening environment, you are meant to be watched. Echo is a real iffy thing. And specifically we're talking about reverb, delay, or any combination of the two. And oftentimes a little bit of that goes an incredibly long way. As a general rule of thumb, unless you're using it as a purpose, like as an effect, and I mean like this is the part of the song where it sounds like I am immersed in a canyon of darkness and the clouds are boiling over the rim and coming to consume me. Then maybe there, like a lot of delay and echo is appropriate because you're trying to set an aural image of where you are lyrically in the song. As a general rule of thumb, though, I don't want my audience to hear it. And as an engineer, when I'm mixing records, my first setting of reverbs and delays is to try to place the vocalist in an environment, not one that sounds artificial, even though it is, but something that sounds human, that sounds real, that surrounds them without being overtly obvious. And then from there, for effects purposes, we might expand, or take away from it. In general, more reverb makes you sound further away and less makes you sound closer. That's part of the reason why there's no reverb on this microphone. I want to sound like I'm talking directly to you. Like we're right here. We're just having a conversation. If I put more reverb on this, or any for that matter, then it would put space between you and I. That's why, that's why I use a microphone like this, and I'm kind of enjoying it because it does exclude a lot of the ambiance around me. You're not even really hearing the room that I'm in. You're just hearing me talking. Crack the code core. Hi guys, a lot of singers who are also in the human rights activism. Please tell them to contact us. We have a powerful lyrics and commercial musical project. They don't have to come to Bogota. That's really cool. That is really, really cool. Maybe can you tell us? I see you've got a little bit. I'm going to skip down here and read what else you've written. Crack the core. Thanks for your videos. You're very welcome. Empathy is basically what we're looking for. Our reports and all the activism we did for many years had little results, so we decided to enter the musical realm. Singers have a lot more power. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. Yeah. I mean, maybe can you tell us a little bit more, Crack the Code Core? This is really, really cool. Polite Pancake. I love that user ID, by the way. And you've even got like the cool user ID picture there of like a stack of pancakes with some butter on top. Thanks, glad to be here. I recently had really bad vocal damage days ago, and I was wondering, do you have a video on how to repair vocal damage on your channel, or a video you would recommend? The only thing that kind of falls into that category is the gentle warm-up. And if you really damaged your voice, you really need to be careful. You might consider seeing an ENT, or at the very least your GP, so they can have a look and make sure there's no persistent irritation. If you cannot vocalize above the secondo passaggio, I highly recommend you don't sing and you take more time off. The gentle warm-up sticks to a very narrow range. And that is how I would begin coming back into your singing practice from the damage. Furthermore, I would be incredibly patient. Think if you lost your voice, plan on at least a week to 10 days before you're even getting close to vocalizing normally. At the very least, if you really hurt yourself, then it could take more. JC's Radiant Ray at Crack. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about too. Human trafficking, human rights activism, or something else. And would you consider creating a quick tip and talking a bit about, is that me? That must be me. Talking a bit regarding the different kinds of auditions and the practical, mundane ways to prepare. That's an awesome idea. Yes, is the short answer to that. FYI, cheers everybody. Nice cup of coffee this morning, a little coffee clutch. If it's after 5 p.m., wherever you may be, maybe it's time for a cold, frosty one. Not that I'm advocating that. I'm just thinking out loud. Okay, so auditions. Practical, mundane. First of all, my first thing with auditions is do your homework. Who are you auditioning for? What is the purpose? What are the requirements? If you don't know them, how can you find them out? All those things. The more that we can learn about what it is, what the process is going to be, and what the requirements are. If you are auditioning for a role, a specific role, what's the range of the role? You can find that out with a fairly good degree of accuracy, even considering like key changes should the director decide to do that. Find out as much information as you can about what the guidelines are for the audition, and then find the music that you are the most comfortable with that satisfies those guidelines and that you feel will suit the audition. So if you sung it 1,000 times and you're bored to death of it, find a new way to get excited about it, because that experience is going to help you in the audition. And furthermore, I might suggest that the adrenaline and the excitement of being in the audition may reinvigorate that piece for you and show you something about the song that you haven't seen in the past. If that does not satisfy the requirements, then you need to begin the process of finding something that, in general, is well within your technical capabilities that will still satisfy the requirements of the audition. So the audition's not the time to show them your project piece. It's not the time to show them, Bohemian Rhapsody transposed up 2 octaves, which you've been working on in your whistle tone stuff, right? It's the time to do something that satisfies the audition requirements and is in a comfortable place for you, because when you go in for that audition, you're going to have to deal with the audition itself as well as putting on a performance. And we want to have as much of that performance in the bag so that we're not going to get overwhelmed with the excitement or the anxiety of the audition, if that happens to be part of something that you have to deal with. And then moving backwards from that, still putting as much time in between when you pick the piece and the audition itself, having a process to go through. And I can do a quick tip on this as well. That's a great idea for a quick tip. And I need to make a bunch of notes on things. I had a lot of really good video requests this week, which is really fun. The piano is almost fixed, by the way. We're moving along with that. At least we've had a technician in, and we're ordering parts from Yamaha, so it's going to work out. Let's see here. I think that Robret is up next. Robret, can you discuss proper microphone technique? Of course. I think I did a couple videos on that. One for stage mics and one for studio mics. So you can certainly check those out on the channel as well. In short, I like to set my microphone up gain-wise for about my speaking voice. So, if I'm singing here, I know that when I sing in my thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, I can mostly just be on the mic, and it's not going to clip or do anything weird. Knowing that when I'm going to sing a loud part, I have to go off axis or back away from the mic, or something such as that. You need to know your microphone and know what its tendencies are. So this we talked about this last week. This is a KMS 105. It's a hypercardioid pickup pattern. So even if I just move a little bit away from it, you really, really start to hear the amount of volume it picks up drop off. Or if I turn my head like this, you can hear again that it gets a lot softer, even though I'm really not changing at all about how I'm talking to you. Right? Different mics have different polar patterns. It's a polar pattern is what it's called. And it's the field around the microphone in the way that it picks up sound, the way that the diaphragm interacts with your voice. This is a condenser microphone, so it requires 48-volt phantom power. If where you're playing doesn't have phantom power on their mixing console or the amplifier that you're using, like if you're using one of those combo amps that you can plug a guitar or a keyboard into and a microphone, if your microphone channel doesn't have phantom power, then you need an inline power source. They're not expensive, but you just need to have it. Most stage microphones, depending on where you're playing, are dynamic. It pays to know the club that you are in. If you walk into a club with one of these and you plug it into the sound console, it will almost certainly howl with feedback because the system will not have been, quote-unquote, wrung out for a microphone like this. It'll have been wrung out for an SM58 or something like that. The SM58 is probably the most popular stage microphone in existence. They're good, they're inexpensive, and they do a fine job. And everyone should have one of those, because even if you're accustomed to using something like this, or like another favorite of mine is a Sennheiser E935. I love those microphones. They're very forgiving and very smooth sounding. But a club may still not know how to deal with that. They will know how to deal with the 58, and it'll always give you a reliable response. But it's not necessarily tailored to your vocal characteristics. Probably the best thing about the 58 is it's like a tank. You can, I'm not advocating that you drop it, but drop it, bump it. Every one of them has a giant dent in the grill, mine too. Like, they're just tanks. They just keep going and going and going. And, especially around the clubs in San Francisco, you see these things and they stink. of like stale beer and food, and they are kind of tacky and gross. And the grill is mashed beyond recognition, and they're stained and horrible looking, but they still work. So you can't really go wrong with a 58, but it is old technology, and there's lots of other microphones out there. Some will suit your voice better than others. It's best to try them out first if you can. Alyssa, I just started following you as of a week ago. I'm newish to singing and started taking voice lessons 4 months ago. That's awesome. Struggling with my secondo passaggio. Any tips on smoothing out that area? Well, there's a bunch of different stuff on the channel about the secondo passaggio. If you have only been taking lessons for 4 months, I assume that this is true with your existing teacher. After about 4 months, you're probably, and if you're really new to singing, like this is like the first run at things, and these are the first sets of lessons you've had, you're probably just getting to the point where getting into your upper register is an appropriate endeavor. If you want to smooth out your secondo passaggio, focus on alignment of vowels in your thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, your chest voice. Getting them aligned and balanced first will make transitioning through the secondo passaggio far easier than trying to jump into it too soon. Assuming that you're at that stage in your development, work the exercises downward. Exercises on my channel, such as how to sing over the break, how to sing in head voice. Those videos go through the process that I employ to help vocalists sing effectively over the secondo passaggio. My final bit of advice too, which I forget this too frequently, but I've been reminded of quite a bit lately, is that when you've had the experience perhaps of singing something and hearing the recording of it, and you're like, whoa, that doesn't sound like me. Well, that goes like tenfold for pitches that are above the secondo passaggio. So the outward sound versus the inward sound is going to be dramatically different when you are above the secondo passaggio in your cricothyroid dominant singing voice. That's your head voice, commonly referred to as head voice. Head voice is not airy. If your head voice is airy, you're not singing in head voice. You're singing in something else. Okay? So there's this kind of confusion about what head voice is. If it's airy, that's not head voice. That's something different. Okay? So it's going to sound way different internally because of bone conductivity and internal resonances. Additionally, when you first start this process, the cricothyroid muscles, posterior and anterior, are typically they haven't been developed very much, and they won't be as strong. They will not have parity with the thyroarytenoid muscle. So it is actually going to sound quite different for a little while. As you practice and those muscles get better coordinated and the vocal fold, and particularly the thyroarytenoid muscles, get more accustomed to allowing the cricothyroid muscles to elongate the vocal fold, then you will start to balance out the energy between those groups of muscles and get a more consistent sound. But you have to be patient. And that is the short answer. Crack the Code, Empathy, I read that. Fred Scavolli, singing solo with acoustic guitar for many years. Awesome. Finally working a proper singing technique, even better. Past 2 years, lessons before now. Now with your videos, great results with warm-ups. Awesome. Where can I go from here? Well, I might suggest lessons online with yours truly. But failing that, you could always consider lessons in your area with someone. You could always do some recordings and see what they are like, and perhaps test your teacher side. Maybe do the recordings and then let it sit for a day and then come back to it and ask yourself, like, can you be the teacher now? Can you listen to yourself in as objective a fashion as you can and identify areas that are in need of improvement, or let's even be more objective than that. Let's just say that you sing something, and can you identify where your voice is out of balance or out of alignment? So if you sing a phrase, and in my classics stance, I'll make up some horrible, silly little lyrical melody line here that demonstrates my point. How about In the Air? In the air. Here you can hear on the air. I'm getting way airy on that, right? In the air. And I'm losing volume. I am not maintaining proper vocal fold adduction. I can hear that. You can probably hear that too. Can I train myself to have proper adduction there? Here I've just taken the vowels. In the air. Now, obviously, that was not a very challenging phrase, and I had the choice of whatever I wanted to demonstrate. It won't necessarily be quite that easy for you, but that might be a really cool way to expand your understanding of your instrument, how you're working with it, and become increasingly aware of the areas of your voice that perhaps would still benefit from more fine-tuning. Check out my song Sunday Comes In. Thank you, Jeff. I practiced your vocal lessons before going into recording song. Awesome. My voice has more substance perhaps, and breathing is very good. Wonderful. That's awesome. JC's Radiant Ray at Crack the Code. Yes, music is powerful, yo. Karina Chen, will you please do a video teaching us how to sing chromatic scales? Yes. It's on my list. It is on my list. You can hear. That's actually not horrible, but now there's that. So you can hear that turnover. That's pretty bad. Yeah, and that's unacceptable. I've been waiting for a technician to be available, and when they came in yesterday, the nut, the bolt, and the receiver bolt on the piano are just they're just in a bad position. They're all stripped out. And so getting parts for pianos, who knew, parts for these things aren't really that standardized, and it's impossible to find them. So the technician who came in is going to have to contact Yamaha. This is a Yamaha piano. I am not endorsed by Yamaha. I bought this long before I started doing this thing. They're going to have to call Yamaha and try and get them to send the parts. Who knew? So there you go. But Karina, I am going to have the piano tuned now because I do have a functioning pedal, and then I can start doing the chromatic stuff. I will do that. I did not forget. It is on my list. It is going to get done. Giuseppe, I need to record with headphones. I watched some video about how to use it in a recording with a half ear out. My intonation is always compromised. I record, you give me something, and I record, you give dramatically different from our recordings and lessons. How can I fix it? That's tough. I mean, one is just doing it frequently. In other words, practice. So how frequently can you do it? Can you do it a little bit, a couple times a week? That will help. You'll have to figure out what works best for you because a lot of different people do a lot of different things. I've gone from doing recordings with full coverage circumnaural headphones to having one off entirely and one only kind of partially on my ear. And in addition to all of that, there's also how much of your voice is in the headphone that's on your ear. All of those variables go into play when you're doing recordings. Additionally, there's the overall volume of the track that you're recording too, and how loud you have that in your cans. In general, I recommend that you get that down as low as you can, not only because it makes it easier to sing, in my opinion, but it's also easier on your ears. And ear fatigue can really make life difficult in the recording studio, especially if you have a long session. So, in short, those are some quick ways to start with that. But be be diligent with it. So, and be willing to, make some adjustments along the way. Try some things. It might get worse before it gets better. But that's one of the ways that we figure out what's working for us. So start it off and start it at the volume that you think it is, and then listen to your recordings. I would also suggest that if you warm up before you start your recording sessions, I would imagine that the first half hour of your recording session is going to be throwaway anyway, just as you're getting used to performing in the studio. And I would say that that's probably conservative in terms of a time frame, because you're just getting used to the environment, getting used to the mix, and then making adjustments in that time frame. You gotta, and I don't want to be the guy that says this matters, because I didn't want it to matter, but I have to tell you too that the actual physical environment that I'm recording in makes a difference too. I would like to think that it doesn't matter if I have fluorescent lights on and whatever, but it kind of does. And I found that when I record in environments where it's more comfortable for me, where it's perhaps a little bit, the lighting is somewhat muted, if not, I don't want it dark, but down a little bit, that I can relax a little bit more and I feel more comfortable. All of these things go into generating a really good performance in the recording studio. Being sensitive to what you respond to favorably will help you find out the combination of elements that make you more successful in the studio. Your task then becomes to archive them to make sure that you can recreate it next time and still be flexible, because moods change and the song will change, and different songs that require different kinds of energy may require a different mood, and you might respond differently. Sorry, I know that's not a definitive do this and fix it, but I'm not sure that there is such a thing. For some vocalists, I'm sure that there is. For others, perhaps not. Polite Pancake, thank you, friend. I guess I'll be a patient pancake then. That's awesome. Then, the notion of a polite pancake, pancakes are so nice anyway, but a polite pancake, it's like, how could it get any better than a polite pancake? It's so nice. It's just like the nicest image you could think of. I'm going to remember to do my station identification. My name's Jeff. Thank you if you've subscribed already, and if you haven't yet, I hope you'll do so now. You want a step-by-step method to work on your voice, go over to the AAA method on jeffrolka.com. Additionally, there's ways that you can support the channel. You can buy an MP3 or a guidebook, which helps to keep this thing going. If you want to make a donation, you can do that there. You can get in touch if you don't want to use PayPal. And finally, I've just added this new thing. If you're going to shop on Amazon anyway, if you go to jeffrolka.com, there's a link to Amazon. If you use that link to go to Amazon, then a small portion of your purchases will be donated to my channel. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change what you pay. It doesn't change anything about your shopping experience. It's just an affiliate link, and it helps me out. All right. Gerald Ryan, thank you, Jeff. You're very welcome. Heidi Banker, hey! Karina, hello, Heidi. JC's Rating Ray, cool. Thanks, Jeff. Bohemian Rhapsody and Whistletones will keep until the next audition. Yes, we can take a pass on that for the time being. Just a little time there. JC's Rating Ray at Heidi. Florence0314. Hey, Jeff. I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much. It's time for a coffee break. FYI, if I haven't mentioned it, this is the most awesome coffee mug in existence, which is a separate category from other, I consider mugs to be different things. So this is like an in-house coffee mug. There's travel mugs, which are considered separately. There's also thermoses, which are considered separately too. And now you know that not in addition to climbing, which some of you may have seen, I'm also very fascinated with vessels for coffee. Crack the Code. Our referents are artists who were truth tellers and also went viral, such as Bob Marley, Manu Chao, and others. Cool. Heidi Baker at Karina and JC Rainy Ray. Crack the Code. The main language is English, also Spanish, Korean, Japanese, Russian, and others, but mainly English. That is so cool. JC's Rainy Ray at Crack the Code and Jeff Rolka. Is there a web? That's what I was wondering. Yeah, can we get that on Sequencer and songwriters who are not performing? Yeah, I'd like to learn more about this Crack the Code core. Willie Shorter Jr. Jeff. I heard another video mention the tenorino. What is that, sir? That's a very, very high range tenor voice. That's like the secondo passaggio is, I believe, if I remember correctly, is at A4. It's very, very high range. It's extremely unusual. Very, very, very unusual. In terms of the operatic voice, it's not a particularly robust instrument, if you know what I'm saying. It's not a very strong instrument. But it's just a classification. It's a Fach, F-A-C-H, a way of classifying voices. So tenor is the main classification, and you have all these different tenors, subsets of the tenor Fach. So you have tenorinos, you have lyric tenors, you have spinto tenors, you have tenor robusto, you have tenor leggero. I think that's basically it. I'm sure there's a couple others, and different schools of voice will categorize them differently. So if you ask somebody else from, say, a more German school, then they'll probably tell you that I'm wrong and that there's these other Fachs. Or they may not, because the system that I'm talking about was developed in Germany, so perhaps we'd all be on the same page. John, Toxtable. Hey, Jeff, been cast as the male lead in Brigadoon. Have a few F-sharp 4s, which is my doom note. Voice wants to thick belt, but sounds very strainy. G4, I transition easy, but the F-sharp 4 sounds weak. Any tips? Yeah, that's probably the secondo passaggio, if that's the case. So two things. One, if you're transitioning, the secondo, okay, so the zona de passaggio, I'm assuming a lot here. So forgive my assumptions if they end up being incorrect. If, in fact, F-sharp 4 is your transition point, which would be likely for a tenor, the actual primo passaggio is going to be C-sharp 4, C4, C-sharp 4. You need to start your vowel modifications and allowing the cricothyroid muscles to elongate the vocal fold lower down. So, if you can resist the urge to strain and do this thick belting thing, then that F-sharp 4 will smooth out a little bit. The way to practice this, for starters, is to start doing descending scales. So start on that G4, start on A-flat 4, start on A4, and then work your scales down through that transition point, narrowing as you descend. So like if you're here, we'll see how I sound after like 2 cups of coffee and not warming up this morning. Work your way down through that, narrowing as you descend so that you get a consistent sound from top to bottom. And then reverse the order and start doing your ascents as well. That will help you to get to that F-sharp 4 with a nice full sound without the necessity of belting if you don't want to, which will also just help with overall endurance as well. Karina Chen, I am really thrilled to be here every week. Wonderful. Jeff, have you ever thought about having a virtual singing group? I give it thought from time to time, but I haven't done anything about it yet. I have mostly gotten so far, because I've been waiting for this for such a long time, I feel very far behind. I kept on thinking I should do them on the Nord, but I just didn't want to do the keyboard stuff anymore. I much prefer to play piano. So yeah, that's one of those things that I think about from time to time, but haven't really given much thought as to how I would implement. I believe that you're on Sequencer. You might shout it out in the Sequencer group, and maybe we can all discuss it. Bippin. Hey, Jeff, could you please give a suggestion on how to belt like Chester Bennington of Linkin Park? I'd have to listen to him first and give it some thought. I did do a video on belting this week, which generally is a summary of what I consider to be best practices for belting. You might check that out. Crack the Code. Core icebreaker song we want to produce is the one that has more viral potential. Its name is The Black Sheep, about a girl who's a passionate activist and graphic designer and a single mother stoner. Cool. Alyssa, you are fabulous, darling. Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'm being impatient with myself. Everything you said makes sense and backs up what I'm feeling mechanically. Brilliant. Toma, I have a specific weird question. This sounds exciting. How do you think does the absence of thyroid gland... Okay, so let me fix that here. Let me think about it. How does the absence of the thyroid gland affect cricothyroid muscle or singing at all? My voice hasn't changed. Ooh, maybe you know someone with the same thing. I don't know. And I don't know what that would mean. Depending on how it was done, the presence of scar tissue in and around the area could have an impact on the musculature. You see, the thing about the cricothyroid muscles and what they do is they're posterior and anterior, and they rotate the hyoid bone, which elongates the vocal fold. So the main vocal fold is attached to the hyoid bone, and as it rotates forward, then you get this elongation, which gives you the seamless connection through the registration events. So if there's anything that would affect that, then it might have an impact on your voice. I do have a friend who had his tonsils removed as an adult, and it did slightly alter his singing voice. But that's a completely unrelated anecdote. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Karina Jen, thank you so much. You're welcome. Crack the Code at JC's Radiant. I just subscribed to your channel. Cool. Gerald Ryan, do you think I need to buy my own microphone? Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Gerald Ryan, like I said, SM58s are generally pretty reasonable in price. Personally, I have a lot of microphones. I have more microphones than I really need, but I have performed in a lot of different capacities over the years, and so different mics have seemed appropriate at different times, and I like trying them out and just using them. So I think it's prudent for all of us to have our own SM58. Particularly if you do show up at that club and the 58 is battered beyond all recognition, soaked in beer and dripping with the phlegm of the previous vocalist, then swapping it out, I think, is a totally reasonable thing to do. And you know that you're getting a really good result. Your 58 is in good repair. If you want to get into something that's more suitable, more specific to your voice, I would still take the 58 with me in the event that the place that you are playing cannot deal with whatever it is you're bringing. And so beyond that, you might even just consider like a Beta 58. It has many of the same qualities as an SM58, but it's a new microphone with neodymium magnets, and it's not. I don't know why they call it an SM58 at all, because it's a totally different mic. But that's the sort of updated version of that, and that's a contemporary microphone that takes advantage of contemporary technologies, and is a great mic, great microphone. Unlikely source, perhaps a silly question, but are there any non-vocal exercises for vocal cords? Simply stretching your mouth of any benefit? I have to catch any response after hours. Much obliged. Yeah, like a little tooth massage can be good. And I like to, sometimes I'll kind of rub my face and squish my face around a little bit just to bring attention to the musculature and get some blood flowing into my cheeks and face and stuff like that. But I would take that with a grain of salt. I don't know that you necessarily need to do those all the time. They're just nice every once in a while. The main good in your vocalizations is going to come from alignment of vowels and airflow, and probably not in that order. Probably airflow first. At Crack the Code, yes, it's proactive. Jason Rennie Ray, very cool. At Crack the Code, Zuruku! Have you had someone give you an instrument you don't like because you supposedly are a natural to it? No, but I've been asked to learn instruments for specific occasions. Like I got into this thing where I was playing ukulele at weddings for a while because people really liked the Israel with the last name that I'm the Hawaiian guy who died far too soon. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I'm just going to butcher it, but he did an amazingly beautiful version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and he played it on ukulele, and so I learned how to play ukulele well enough to play that song. But I mean, the only instrument I ever was given that I really didn't do well at was the trumpet, and I probably could have applied myself better, but who knows. Crack the Code. She doesn't do graphic designs for wicked guys, just happily designs for peasants on strike, indigenous resistances, working class fights. That's cool. Giuseppe, thank you, Jeff. I will experiment more. Cool. Zoroko, my teacher just wanted me to play bass instead of guitar because I seemed frustrated. Okay, well, that could be cool. I mean, bass is awesome. I always loved playing bass. Most of the time when I've been in rock bands, I've played bass and really, really enjoyed that. But if you don't like it, then, I don't know. Don't do it. Yeah, I don't think being frustrated, when we're frustrated, if you're frustrated for years, that's one thing. If you're frustrated for a lesson, that's a different thing. Take 5, come back to it. Switch songs, do a different song. Frustration, I don't think frustration is inherently bad. It's something that we have to manage carefully because we don't want to burn out. Diago, is it already inging? I wonder if that means evening. And it might be where you are. Where Gerald Ryan is, it's the middle of the night. Fred, just sent you an email at your website about lessons and coaching. Looking forward to your response. Oh, that's cool, Fred. Awesome. JC's Rainy Ray at Thiago Villa. No, it is not ending. Jeff has 20 minutes left. Yes. Oh, ending. Gotcha. Oh, I bet that was during my station ID. Yeah, no. I just always forget to do the station ID, and I remembered today. I'll probably forget next time. Fred, that's cool. I actually after the event today, I have to run because I'm going to a picnic. So I'm going to respond to you later on this evening or tomorrow. So I will respond. Just so you're aware. Rachel, I am a contemporary singing teacher, but I use your warm-ups myself and also recommend it to my students, and they have all benefited. That's awesome. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that, and thank you for joining us. Crack the Code Core, my teacher. We're penniless, but you can plan your holidays for Colombia, and you can save good money staying in our house. That's so kind of you. Thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate it. And be careful what you wish for, because if we ever make it down to Colombia, I may in fact look you up. That's very kind of you. Susan, how much before an event should I warm up? What kind of warm-up should I use as an alto voice? Okay, so I love this question. But unfortunately, the answer is that you have to consider the repertoire that you're singing. That is the answer. The answer is in what you're singing. Consider the range that you are in. Consider the range of the repertoire. Generally speaking, we'd like to be warmed up to a major second, minor third above the highest pitch of any one song. If you have a wide range, if your repertoire is really covering the vast expanses of your Fach, then you're going to really need a thorough warm-up, and you're going to need to make sure that you're transiting the secondo passaggio effectively. How long? Depends a lot on you and how quickly your voice responds to it. If you've been singing for 20 years and you sing every day, it is quite likely that you won't need terribly long to warm up, to actually literally warm up your voice. To physically feel warmed up might be different. You might not feel really warmed up for a while. But the mechanics of getting your voice ready to sing, assuming that you take really good care of your instrument, that you sing daily, like some of us, right? Then, warm-ups won't take very long. If it does take you a rather long time, I would look more carefully at how you're warming up, what your vocal characteristics are like, and if there's something else going on. Oftentimes, I'll get questions from people like, it takes me an hour to warm up. That's a long time. And I'm not saying that that's entirely outside the realm of possibility, but there are probably ways to expedite that process. And looking at how you're warming up now, if that's the case, will inform you as to what might shift so that you can be more efficient in the time spent warming up. But I don't think half an hour is unreasonable at all. And again, too, it depends on when your event is. If it's early in the morning, then for me personally, I warm up in stages. So if I have to sing at 9 a.m., I'm going to be up at 6 and starting to vocalize as quickly as possible, but in really short stints, and just vocalizing a little bit in a very narrow range, and just waking my body up, getting myself moving, getting some hydration happening, because I just spent 8 hours without drinking anything. And then just moving towards singing and vocalizing fully. Thiago at Jace's Rating Ray. Julie watching from Korea. First person identifying from Korea. Hello in Korea. Unknown, can you clarify what countertenors are? How should I use my voice properly if I'm a countertenor? Countertenors, typically a very high tenor range vocalist. Using your voice properly, and this depends too a bit on and if you're actually a countertenor, or if oftentimes countertenors are baritones that are using their falsetto voices. So it depends on what you actually are. If you're a tenorino, which would kind of fall into the range characteristics of a countertenor, then you would use your voice throughout those registration events the way any other tenor would. It's just that you're about a major second higher than most tenors. Okay? If you're a baritone vocalist, then you're using your falsetto range, which is totally fine. If you're primarily well adducted, then you're going to have a consistent, full-sounding voice, despite the F word, falsetto. If you check out my falsetto video, you'll see what I mean. Okay, falsetto is not meant to be airy. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Then that's a different way of using your voice. And while there are similarities, you're going to need to you're going to have to feel your way through the registration events carefully with good airflow, and be very much released. That the release into that falsetto type of phonation, it feels different than the transition through the secondo passaggio. We're almost out of time, folks, so I'm gonna try and get through these. Jody, everyone, hope all 2 good questions. Warm-ups, should they be daily? Yes. Is a complete break, say a week, going to put you back a lot? It depends on how long you've been practicing daily. If you take a week off, then you and your audience will probably hear that there's been a difference there, but you'll get right back into it. It's not a big. Take your week off. It's cool. Heidi, this week I had more time with some of my students on vacation. I went through a lot of your warm-ups. Still like the older ones too. Thank you. That's awesome, Heidi. Heidi, do you appreciate your new place being very plain? Gets me less distracted. Cool. Eventually I'm gonna put some shelves in here. I'm gonna have like a little something back here, just a little eye candy. Meant older, Heidi. Kevin O'Brien, how can I develop my vibrato more easily? Focus on alignment and airflow, and your vibrato will emerge. You'll notice it as a shimmying in the tone that you will be able to encourage. Crack the code. Nju at Nju. Karina Chen. Wow, Jeff, you are really talented. You can play so many instruments. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I do try. Mostly I just do. Thank you. I'll just say thank you and move on. That's very kind of you. John, thank you so much. You're very welcome. Awesome. That's awesome that you use them before rehearsals. How to increase the pitch of the voice. If you're singing flat, that's usually because there's too much muscle tension in the thyroarytenoid muscles. Learn to balance your phonations so that you can release some of that muscle tension, and you will start to sing in tune, assuming that you're hearing things. You can also check the solfege videos can help you with aural, A-U-R-A-L, acuity. So listening and understanding intervals. The more that you can predict the interval that you are going to. So if you look in the music and it's a perfect fifth skip, and you're singing a G and you're going to D, then you can you can be more prepared for that D natural when it comes. Soroku, thanks for the response. Good. How would you improve your tone and quality? Crave Fest. Well, practice every day. The warm-up videos are technique videos. Listen for inconsistencies in the transitions between vowels and work to ameliorate them. There's also a couple videos on the channel about improving tone. You might look at those. Capone, yes, it'll be published as soon as I click off. JC's rating rate at Capone. Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Everybody, have an awesome week. I'm going to a picnic. I will talk to you, Fred, later on. Everybody, take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. I'm going to get this thing tuned up and get some chromatic exercises as well as a bunch of new warm-ups out to you. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.